Well, as we hit lockdown level 2 and restrictions on the economy were relaxed, South Africans found themselves battling load shedding once again. Eskom has access to more than 50,000 megawatts of installed capacity.
On an average day, we used 29,000 megawatts during the lockdown. This usage dropped by an average of 7,500 megawatts.
Well, just looking at the before and after picture of the weekend on Friday, load shedding was back with a vengeance as we lost more than 11,000 megawatts due to unplanned breakdowns and 5,000 megawatts were offline due to plant maintenance.
The picture today is slightly better. Just load shedding with stage 1 was predicted for this morning, moved to stage 2 now.
Our Eskom CEO under Director has apparently been wielding a big stick with 2 Eskom managers currently on suspension. However, the power utility is still warning users that the country's power woes are likely to continue for several more months. There's also been a push by the Department of Minerals and Energy to begin the process of securing emergency power for the country. But analyst Ted Blom has criticized the state-owned power utility for not being honest and deliberately underreporting load-shedding stages. He joins me now. Ted, good evening, and thank you so much for your time on the Pulse. Eskom would like us to believe that more often than not, they're caught unaware by a problem that the current management did not create, and therefore South Africans must really be understanding, at the very least, by the fact that we're basically all in the same position and there's nothing that we can do but wait for the changes over the next 18 months, and hopefully the best is yet to come.
Yeah, I hear that argument, but I think that Eskom has been very sparse with the facts. There's a couple of facts that I'd like to correct. Firstly, the CEO promised the parliamentary and South African public that the load shedding will last for 12 months. I said it was a pipe dream. He's now told Parliament last week it will last for 24 months. I still think it's even a bigger pipe dream because he hasn't got a budget, and my estimate is it will take him at least 5 years to recondition the 80-plus units that they were talking of doing. And with no budget, it's impossible to get the OEMs to come and fix things up, the original equipment manufacturers. So I think Eskom is just bluffing us. What they also haven't told you in the public is that the lack of maintenance and the running down of the old units into the ground was actually a deliberate strategy of Eskom after the World Cup. They stopped doing maintenance at the World Cup because they wanted more availability on plant. For the 500,000 people that were going to arrive, only 50,000 or so arrived. So that was overreaction from Eskom's side. And then for 4 years, they cut back on the maintenance. They didn't do proper maintenance. And they threw that extra money into Medupi and Kusile. And their hope was, as the old power stations fall over, the new power stations would take up the slack and be commissioned. They were caught with their pants down because the new stations' availability at the beginning of this year, Medupi was less than 60% available, and Kusile was a shocking 19% available. So not only have they taken a massive bet, which has now put South Africa at a high risk of failure, but they also didn't execute their promise properly in having new replacement power available. And in this whole sad story, the price of electricity has gone from one of the cheapest in the world on its way to the most expensive in the world, because you'll recall that the CEO told Parliament last week that he expects a 25 or needs a 25% per annum increase to get some solvency back to Eskom. What they also haven't told you and me is that instead of cutting the debt of 450 billion so far that was available or noted in March, they've now increased that by another 38 billion. So they now stand at 488 billion. So it's a total disaster. I'm calling on the Minister of Energy to open up the grid because Eskom is patently not able to supply the power that we need, and they're lying about the power levels. Last week, 2 days, they shed over 5,000 megawatts, but only, which is supposed to be level 6 according to their own definitions. And when I took them up on it, they flippantly said no, they don't count in the load shedding to industry. Well, that's probably the most expensive load shedding because that's our jobs at stake. So I really think that there needs to be a big rethink and a reshuffling of the executive on the third floor of Megawatt Park, because they've failed to meet their own promises, and they keep on misleading the public as to what the availability is. People ask me now, must we invest in South Africa? I said, well, if you can bring your own power, yes, otherwise don't. Because Eskom on a good day struggles to bring 30,000 megawatts to the park.
Ted, let's look at what Eskom has said they're doing to try and resolve this problem on the ground. They fired, or rather they suspended some of their executive managers at different power stations. Is something like that the way to go? Will that yield results?
Absolutely not. If you understand Eskom culture, and I've been inside and outside and alongside Eskom for more than 35 years, the power station manager, if I may make the comparison, and it's not a good one to use, but it is like the chief of the party at the power station, and everybody is loyal to the power station manager. To unceremoniously remove these people in the manner that Eskom is now boasting about, I think it will have repercussions. It will have repercussions in staff morale, and it might have repercussions on the labour side, which I'm surprised they haven't come out yet. But accountability needs to start at the top. Management and leadership are supposed to set proper examples and proper targets, not pie-in-the-sky stuff. I mean, you'll recall that the politicians promised in December that there would be no more load shedding, and less than a week or two later, we had level 6 load shedding. Similarly, earlier on this year, the Eskom leadership promised a minimal load shedding of level 1 for 1 day or two, and we've had a disastrous. We've had more load shedding this year than last year. So I think there's a big integrity problem with the management of Eskom.
All right.